Hey guys, tonight we tumble into a world where tea flows like water, cats disappear mid-sentence, and flamingos are apparently athletic equipment. You'll feel the moss underfoot, the breeze tugging at your sleeves, and maybe, just maybe, lose a little grip on time. You're about to wake up in a place where the rules are made of riddle, the clocks don't tick right, and even the flowers talk behind your back. But don't worry, you're not alone. I'm right here with you, whispering each step like the voice of your slightly sarcastic subconscious. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your city and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You begin in the most mundane way possible. Flat on your back in a lawn chair. There's the sun, too bright frankly. There's your book, face down on your chest, probably unread past page 3. And there's that single bee, buzzing, hovering too close to your lemonade like it's been personally invited. Then the moment, not dramatic at first. Just a little shift beneath you like the earth sighed. But the sigh turns into a shiver. The shiver becomes a tug. And then the chair, the book, and you all slide not down but through. Gravity forgets its job. Your ears pop. Your skin fizzes like a dropped mint in soda. And suddenly you're weightless, spinning in a tunnel that smells of peppermint and rain-soaked parchment. You land. Not hard. The ground is soft, springy like moss that's been pampered. The air is cool and floral, with an undertone of cinnamon toast. You sit up. Above you there's no sky, just twisting vines and hints of a ceiling far, far beyond. This isn't your lawn anymore. A rustling, then a thunk. Something drops beside you. Pocket watch the size of a pancake. It's ticking backward. A brass hand swings around madly, smacking the numbers like it's drunk on its own confusion. Late, late, terribly late. You turn just in time to see a hare. Not a rabbit. Hare. Taller than you when he stands up straight, which he doesn't, dressed in a faded waistcoat, monocle askew, fur fluffed with the panic of a missed appointment. Oh no, oh crumbs, oh unmentionable fudge. I've done it again. You manage to say, "Excuse me? No time." Or, "Too much time." It's all very contested. He grabs your wrist. His paw is surprisingly warm. We're behind the teacup curve. And just like that, you're yanked into a sprint. Through ferns that whisper in Morse code. Past mushrooms that lean in closer, curious. Over a stream that giggles like a child being tickled. You try to ask where you're going, but your lungs are busy. Your brain is busy. And honestly, you're kind of enjoying it. Eventually, you break into a clearing. There's a table. Correction, there's a very long table. Laid out like a banquet. Teapots shaped like turtles. Cups the size of soup bowls. Plates holding biscuits that squirm slightly when you look too long. And around it all guests. A man with straw hair and a smile too wide. A dormouse curled in a butter dish. A March hare, no relation to your current one, poking his tea with a pencil. You've crashed a party already in progress. Take a seat. Someone shouts. Possibly at you. Possibly at the air. You don't sit. You stand awkwardly by a chair that looks suspiciously like it might bite. The original hare, your reluctant tour guide, gestures wildly. This is it. The table of eternal refreshment, governed by the grandfather clock's misguided nephew. You blink. What? The March hare leans over, eyes wide. Time got offended, he whispers. We tried to murder it with spoons. Now it won't move forward. You don't ask if that's a metaphor. Instead, you notice something odd. The shadows here shift sideways. The teapots refill themselves. And no one is aging, even though at least 36 minutes have passed. Historians still argue whether Lewis Carroll intended Wonderland as satire, symbolism, or just the result of one too many opium-laced dreams. But here, where you can smell sugar in the air and feel logic unraveling thread by thread, it doesn't matter. You're inside the metaphor now. And the tea tastes like memory. Specifically, the first cup your grandmother gave you, the one with too much honey and not enough patience. As you take a second sip, the table stretches. Not literally, just a little longer every time you blink. You realize it's not time that's frozen. You've entered a clockless world where every tick is optional, and every moment might loop back around to eat its own tail. And there, on a cushion beside a crumpet stack, the dormouse stirs. Opens one eye. "You're new," it says, yawning. You nod. Better learn the rules before someone dreams you out of them. And it's only then you realize. You're not sure which direction up is anymore. The chair does bite. Not hard, thankfully. Just a nip to remind you that nothing in this place is ornamental. Everything participates. You yank your hand back and glare at it. Somehow looks smug. You sit on a different one, after politely asking its permission. Creaks but allows it. Across the table, the Mad Hatter raises a teacup in a toast. It's filled with feathers. "To new arrivals," he proclaims, "may they always be fashionably confused." The others echo the sentiment with varied enthusiasm. A teapot belches steam in agreement. You give a half smile and a nod, which here counts as a formal treaty. There's a pause. Then the March Hare leans in. "So tell us," he says, "how did you fall in?" You open your mouth. 'Cause honestly you're not sure. Was it a dream? A wormhole? An overly ambitious mole? Says the dormouse, licking a sugar cube the size of its head. They never remember at first. Probably better. You're about to ask a follow-up when the Hatter claps once. The whole table jerks like it's been electrocuted. "On to business," he declares. "We're out of time." "I thought we had too much time," you say. "Exactly," he cries. "And that's why it's gone." This logic somehow makes perfect Wonderland sense. The Hatter produces a small sundial from his hat, sets it on the table and frowns. "This is useless at night," he mutters. You glance upward. No stars. No moon. Just an oily swirl of twilight and lavender clouds. The sky hums faintly. "How long have you been here?" you ask. The March Hare laughs. "It's not comforting. I've had my tea 37 times, he says. Or none. It's hard to count when your minutes melt. There's a curious tension in the air now. Everyone is smiling, but it feels strained. Like even the tablecloth is holding its breath. Then the Mad Hatter taps a teaspoon 3 times on his saucer. "We must discuss the incident," he says in a stage whisper. Everyone leans in, including you, though you haven't a clue what he means. "Someone," he says gravely, "has reset the sugar." Tiny high-pitched ones like teacups squealing. The dormouse fainted. Or fell asleep again. Possibly both. "This is a criminal offense," the hare says solemnly. "A fundamental break in the social fabric." You look at the sugar bowl. It looks fine. Full even. "Was it empty before?" you ask. The Hatter narrows his eyes. "That's not the point." Fair. Historians note that Victorian tea culture was deeply ritualized. More performance than refreshment. But in Wonderland it's like that system got shaken up in a snow globe, then dropped in a puddle of pure chaos. The Hatter stands. His hat tilts. The feather in it twitches like it's alive. Trial, he declares. A minor one. Informal. Just to keep the flavor interesting. You raise a hand. Shouldn't we have a judge? We do, the March Hare says, pointing at the sugar bowl. It does have a tiny crown on it. You're sworn in with a lemon wedge. They debate whether the sugar reappearing is proof of sorcery, sabotage, or spontaneous generosity. You're called as a character witness, despite not knowing any of them until 9 minutes ago. You testify that the tea was good and that the table has a fine sense of drama. Verdict: probable witchcraft. Punishment: a change of topic. Let's play riddles, the Hatter shouts, delighted. Everyone groans. You get the sense this is a daily occurrence. Why is a raven like a writing desk? He begins. You open your mouth to respond, but he shushes you. No answers. Only pondering. That's the game. And so you ponder. The Hatter begins reciting limericks backwards. The March Hare starts balancing teaspoons on his ears. The Dormouse mumbles something about cheese crimes. It's all nonsense. But also, it's kind of peaceful. The longer you sit there, the less urgent everything feels. No emails. No notifications. No clocks. You start to feel the tickle of sleep at the edge of your thoughts. Which is, of course, when the trumpet sounds. Real one. From somewhere nearby. It blares a single, stuttering note and is followed by a voice shouting, "Royal decree! Royal decree!" The hare stands, eyes wide. She's coming. Who? You ask. The Queen, they all whisper. The Hatter flings a napkin over the sugar bowl. Hide the evidence. Of what? Of anything. You're ushered to your feet as the table folds itself into a hedgehog and scurries off. The cups vanish. The chairs collapse into leaves. The guests scatter like startled pigeons. You're left alone in a clearing that now looks entirely mundane. Just some mushrooms, grass, and a tree shaped suspiciously like a lamppost. And then you hear her. A rustling cape. And the hiss of something sharp being unsheathed. Let's hope, mutters a voice from nowhere. You're good at croquet. You're not good at croquet. At least, not the kind where the mallet stares at you. It blinks, you whisper. That means it likes you, says a card soldier beside you, though he doesn't sound convinced. You're standing on a croquet lawn that ripples slightly, like the ground is breathing. The sky has shifted into a strange peach gray, and in the distance, hedges prune themselves with audible snips. The Queen of Hearts is approaching in a swirl of red and menace. She doesn't walk so much as arrive, every step punctuated by a trumpet blast, even though you can't find the trumpeter. Her dress is enormous, shaped like an inverted tulip, and her crown is clearly compensating for something. There you are, she barks, pointing a velvet-gloved finger at you. You're the substitute. You glance left, right. No one else here. Oh, you begin. Silence, she says, even though you were already silent. Take your flamingo. Someone hands you a live flamingo. It gives you a weary, judgmental look. You cradle it awkwardly. Sighs. The Queen swings her own flamingo experimentally, narrowly missing a hedgehog that's curled into a perfect ball. The hedgehog squeaks. We play to the screams, she declares. You whisper to your flamingo, I'm so sorry. It blinks once, slowly. You think it's forgiveness. Or resignation. The game begins. And it's chaos. The ball hedgehogs roll off in unpredictable directions. The hoops are soldiers bent into arches, who occasionally move just to mess with you. The flamingos twist their necks at the worst moments. And the Queen is cheating. Obviously. Brazenly. With the subtlety of a circus cannon. You try to play properly. Aim. You swing. Your hedgehog rolls 3 feet and then abruptly falls asleep. "Off with itis nap," the queen yells. You freeze. She narrows her eyes at you. Ooh. You have the face of someone who reads books. "Sometimes," you admit. "Suspicious," she mutters. "Intellectuals ruin everything." She glares at your flamingo. Yours is not enthusiastic. He's had a rough day. The flamingo burps quietly. The queen steps closer, her perfume a violent mix of roses and vinegar. "Let me be clear. Lose the game, and I may consider sparing your ankles." This is not motivating. The crowd of card people watches silently. Occasionally one mutters a bet. You overhear one whisper. 2-1 the newcomer cries by hoop 5. Don't. But you do sweat. Blood. The kind of sweat that only appears when a monarch threatens your lower limbs. Your flamingo refuses to participate further. You hold him like an unwilling violin and swing with all the grace of a collapsing bookshelf. Miraculously, your hedgehog ricochets off a tree root, bounces through 2 hoops, and lands squarely at the queen's feet. You stares. You stare. Your flamingo blinks twice. Everyone gasps. "Well," she says finally. "Luck is just treason in disguise." "Historians still argue," says a voice behind you, "whether the Queen of Hearts represented Victorian monarchy or the unpredictability of early publishing success." You turn. The Cheshire Cat is lounging on a tree branch. Or at least his smile is. The rest of him fades in as if remembering it belongs somewhere. "Hi again," you say. "Do you ever know where you're going?" he asks. "Rarely." He grins wider. "Perfect. You'll fit in." The queen is barking orders. Soldiers reshuffle. Flamingos are rotated. A hedgehog rolls away screaming. "You should probably lose now," the cat advises. "Winning makes her itchy." You nod solemnly. Next round you swing wide. Your hedgehog meanders, hits a mushroom, and rolls gently into a puddle. "Excellent failure," the cat says. The queen seems appeased. She waves a hand and announces, "That's enough sport. Time for cake and judgment." Cake appears. Like instantly, tables pop out of the ground. Slices float into hands. Yours tastes like birthday parties you forgot you had. Judgment follows. The queen gestures. "The newcomer will be sentenced to." Dramatic pause. "Tea with the caterpillar." There are gasps, this time from everyone. Even the cat raises an eyebrow. "Harsh. Why?" you whisper. The queen leans in, lips curled. "Because he asks questions." Then she twirls away in a flurry of skirts and complaints, dragging the croquet court with her. You stand alone with your flamingo. "Do you know the way?" you ask. It points, somehow, with its beak, toward a forest that smells faintly of matches and philosophy. "Great," you sigh. The cat's tail flicks once as he vanishes, voice lingering. "Just remember, in Wonderland, asking the wrong question is better than giving the right answer." You step forward, flamingo in tow. The trees ahead sway, not from wind but from breath. The forest hushes as you enter, like it's expecting you. The air is thick with something that might be fog or might be the smoke of a dozen philosophical cigars. The leaves whisper in tones too low to parse, and every tree trunk seems just slightly off-center, like it's leaning in to eavesdrop. Somewhere ahead, someone exhales deeply. You follow the sound. And there, coiled on a mushroom like an extremely bored noodle, is a caterpillar. Enormous. Blue. Wearing a tiny embroidered vest that says, "Inquire within." He's holding a long, thin hookah pipe. The smoke curls in unnatural ways, making shapes, letters, symbols, a chicken wearing a monocle, and finally spelling out, I'm just visiting, you say cautiously. Terrible answer, he replies, with a voice like velvet being dragged through gravel. Try again. I fell. Through a hole. Obvious. Try again. You flounder. I'm me. Also true. Also useless. He exhales 3 concentric question marks. You consider fleeing. But your flamingo has sat down and appears emotionally committed to this segment. Why does it matter who I am, you ask? The caterpillar's eyes twinkle. Now that is a better question. Historians still argue whether Wonderland was a rebellion against logic or a celebration of it in chaotic disguise. The caterpillar is squarely in camp paradox. He offers you the hookah. You politely decline. Suit yourself, he says. It tastes like regret and bubblegum. A puff of smoke turns into a little paper boat and floats away. You know, he says, leaning back, most people come here trying to find something. Like what? Meaning. Answers. The door out. Occasionally a decent cup of coffee. And what do they find? He smirks. Usually themselves. Occasionally a lizard with tax fraud issues. But mostly themselves. You sit on a mossy rock. The forest hums faintly like a slow-breathing animal. I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Correct. No one ever is. He adjusts his vest. And yet, everyone always ends up here eventually. Is this a dream? Pauses. Do you want it to be? That's a hard one. Before you can answer, he asks, what's your favorite lie? You blink. What? Everyone has one. Favorite lie. Something they tell themselves to make the days go down easier. You think. You almost say, I don't lie to myself, but that's obviously a trap. Maybe. That things always work out. He nods approvingly. Classic. Vintage. Very human. He puffs another cloud. Turns into a small theater stage. A puppet version of you walks across it and promptly falls through a trapdoor. You raise an eyebrow. The caterpillar shrugs. Symbolism. Don't take it personally. You glance around the forest. There's no clear path out. No road. No signs. Just a lingering sense that the deeper you go, the more yourself you'll have to unpack. Which way am I supposed to go? You ask. He says. That depends entirely on where you're trying not to end up. Back at the Queen's court. Then head toward ambiguity and mild despair. Keep left of the thinking trees. You stand, brushing mushroom spores off your sleeves. Your flamingo rouses from its nap and sighs again. You give very cryptic advice, you tell him. He grins. I charge by the riddle. You take a few steps into the trees. Oh, he calls after you. And be careful near the flowers. Why? They gossip. You nod slowly. Of course they do. You push through the brush. Behind you, the caterpillar reclines, disappearing into a cloud of punctuation. Ahead, the forest brightens just a bit. The scent of smoke gives way to something sweeter. Blooming. And voices. High-pitched. Addery. Enthusiastic in a way that instantly feels exhausting. Did you see her hair? Tragic. And the flamingo. Honestly. She looked lost. She is lost. You step into a clearing. And are immediately judged by flowers. You've never been critiqued by a chrysanthemum before. Bold choice that shirt, it says coolly, petals fluttering with faint disdain. A daffodil leans toward a marigold and stage whispers. I think it's called casual comfort, poor thing. You are, in fact, wearing your favorite hoodie. You resist the urge to explain that you weren't expecting a sentient garden today. Your flamingo companion looks utterly unbothered, resting beneath a bush of stargazer lilies currently locked in a heated debate about cloud formations. The clearing is vibrant, almost offensively so. Colors seem turned up a notch too high. The roses are deep crimson, the tulips a neon chorus of pastels, and the sunflowers practically hum with smugness. And every single one of them talks. To each other. To you. Mostly about you. She's too upright. I don't trust people who don't slouch. He smells like logic. It's off-putting. Where's his pollen passport? You clear your throat. I'm just passing through. A dramatic pause. Then a tall, elegant orchid, clearly the ringleader, tilts toward you. No one just passes through the garden, it says, as though delivering the final line of a courtroom drama. The roses nod solemnly. You take a step forward, and the grass recoils slightly, like you've said something awkward at a dinner party. Look, you say, trying to keep it light. I'm just looking for the way out of Wonderland. The tulips gasp. The daisies faint, though you're not convinced it wasn't for attention. The orchid leans in, voice suddenly theatrical. Ah, so you're the one the prophecy mentioned. Wait. What prophecy? The one about the traveler with tragic fashion, questionable motives, and a flamingo companion doomed to betrayal. You and your flamingo exchange a wary glance. You're making that up, you say. Obviously, the orchid says unrepentantly. But doesn't it add intrigue? You sigh. A bluebell chimes delicately. Do you at least know who you're supposed to become? I was hoping that would become clear eventually. Historians still debate, says a snapdragon in a faux academic tone, whether Wonderland was ever meant to clarify anything, or whether it's just a prolonged metaphor for growing up with no user manual. You raise an eyebrow. Are you quoting a thesis? Guilty. Somewhere behind the foxgloves, you hear a snort of laughter. It's the kind of laughter that sounds like it knows things. Dangerous things. You push aside a fern. And there he is again, grinning. The Cheshire cat lounges atop a hydrangea bush, tail curled like a question mark. Still chasing exits, he purrs. Still showing up uninvited. You counter. He winks. I'm an idea. Ideas don't need invitations. You consider that. It's annoyingly valid. Any advice? You ask. Plenty. Most of it unhelpful. But let's start with this. Don't trust the begonias. Why? They have political ambitions. The begonias rustle angrily behind you. The cat stretches luxuriously. If you want direction, you'll need to speak with the watcher. Who's the watcher? Lurks near the labyrinth. Talks in riddles. Smells like ink. Very unpleasant. But useful. You glance back at the flowers. They've started a musical number. No, really. The lilies are harmonizing, and the roses are beatboxing. You decide not to investigate. You turn to the cat. Which way? He points or tries to. His paw vanishes before fully extending. Left of the rock that hums. Past the bush that weeps. If you reach the hill that insults you, you've gone too far. You nod. That was oddly specific. I'm in a generous mood. He begins to fade. Wait, you say. Why are you helping me? He smiles one last time. Because you amuse me. And Wonderland gets boring when no one asks the wrong questions. And he's gone. The musical number reaches a key change. A sunflower does jazz hands. You take a deep breath, scoop up your flamingo, and head for the weeping bush. Behind you the flowers applaud. You suspect it's sarcastic. You find the weeping bush without much effort, mostly because it's sobbing audibly and muttering. He said he'd water me and then just vanished. You offer it a gentle pat, which it accepts with a leaf-dabbed sniffle, and then press on. The humming rock is next, vibrating slightly beneath your feet with a deep baritone hum, like a monk trapped in granite. Past both landmarks, the path narrows. The air thickens again, not with smoke this time, but with a scent of cinnamon and something spicy? Maybe clove. Or possibly panic. You're entering another part of Wonderland's underbelly. A toadstool the size of a garden shed sits in the center of a glade. A kitchen has been jammed inside. Crooked cabinets nailed to bark, a stove that breathes softly like it's dreaming, and a spice rack that actively rotates to hide its more dangerous ingredients. A cook stands at the counter, stirring something in a pot the size of a bathtub. She doesn't look up. "Mind the explosion," she says, completely deadpan. You freeze. What explosion? A cupboard in the back bursts open, and a cloud of what smells like pepper and betrayal pours out. Cook nods. That one. You cough, wave the air clear, and cautiously approach. She's tall, gaunt, dressed in an apron that reads salt to taste, blood optional. Her hair is tied back with a length of red ribbon that twitches occasionally, like it has opinions. "You the watcher?" you ask. He snorts. "Heavens no. I'm the cook." Your flamingo hides behind a stack of plates that might be watching you. "I was told to come this way," you say. "Everyone is," she replies, dicing onions that emit tiny screams as they hit the cutting board. Very few leave. You don't love that answer. You look around. The kitchen is a war zone of ingredients and kitchenware. A whisk tries to climb out of a bowl. A garlic bulb jumps off the shelf and sprints under the stove. "Want soup?" she asks. "No thanks. It's mostly ideas and regret. Seasoned heavily. Tempting." She points a wooden spoon at a side door. "Watcher's through there. But he won't speak to you if you're too logical. Or too clean." You glance down. Your hoodie is dirt-smudged, your flamingo is shedding in clumps, and your socks don't match. Perfect. "Wait," you ask. "What do you mean, too logical?" She smiles, a sly, smoky curve of her lips. "He talks in tastes and metaphors. If you try to decode him like a map, you'll miss the poem." You nod solemnly like you understand. Don't. But you head toward the door anyway. The hallway beyond is dim. Smells like old parchment, rain, and just a hint of wet dog. The floor creaks beneath your feet like it's remembering something unpleasant. You reach a room that's barely a room. More like a nook lit by flickering candlelight. The shelves are full of glass jars, each labeled with a word. Maybe. Almost. Yesterday. Truth. You don't want to know what's in them. At the center, a man sits cross-legged on a rug of stitched-together playing cards. He's wrapped in layers of fabric that seem to change color as you stare. His beard is long, braided with tiny keys. "You've come," he says without looking up. You open your mouth. "Don't speak yet," he says. "Let the air catch up to you." You close it. Beat passes. Then another. Then he says, "You seek the center, yes?" "Sure," you say, unsure. The labyrinth will ask you one thing. What do you fear in silence? You blink. "I don't." "Shoo," he says. You pause. In the stillness, something presses in. Not a noise, but the absence of one. Like all your stray thoughts just lined up and started judging. "I don't know," you whisper. "Good," he says. He opens his eyes. They're not the same color. One is deep sea green. The other is a soft gray that seems to reflect everything but light. He hands you a spoon. It's bent. Slightly warm. "This will not help," he says. "But you'll feel better holding it." "Thanks. Also," he adds, "don't answer any riddles that rhyme in threes." That's how the trees eat you. You file that under deeply unsettling and probably important. Then he leans in. Take the hallway that echoes your name. You wait. He says nothing else. Is there signage? Only on Tuesdays. You nod like that means something. Then, gripping your spoon, you step back into the hallway. Your flamingo joins you. He looks at the spoon, then at you. I know, you sigh. The hallway stretches on, distorting with every step. Somewhere ahead, you hear your own name whispered. Not quite correctly, but close enough to make your skin prickle. You walk faster. The whisper of your name grows louder, but never quite right. Like someone read it once and has been guessing ever since. You pass under a crumbling archway of brambles and hanging roots, and the temperature shifts. The air smells like turned soil and some long-forgotten perfume. Lavender, maybe. Or guilt. Path curves. Then curves again. Then folds back on itself in a way that makes your stomach lurch. And suddenly you're there. The garden of talking flowers. But not the gossipy show tunes crowd from earlier. These flowers are older. The stems are twisted. The petals thick and veined like parchment. Some blossoms have eyes that don't blink. Others sway in rhythm to a breeze you cannot feel. They don't chatter. They watch. You swallow and take a tentative step forward. A voice, a low one, scratchy like wind across dry grass, says, "Another walker," comes from a black orchid. Its petals curl inward like clenched fingers. Just passing through, you say, for what feels like the 100th time. A blue poppy chimes in, voice smoother. That's what the last one said. What happened to them? Silence. Then the orchid murmurs. They grew roots. You tug your flamingo a little closer. Why are you all different? You ask. The flowers rustle. Because we remember, says a marigold with one torn leaf. We were the ones who asked too many questions. And got answers. You hesitate. What kind of answers? The marigold leans in. The kind that bloom in your sleep. And sprout again every time you forget them. That's not cryptic at all. You walk slowly, carefully, down the winding path between the flower beds. The path isn't dirt, it's poetry. Actual lines etched into stone, winding through the garden like a nervous poem trying to escape its author. You glance down. One verse reads, "The seeker walks with quiet breath, each petal hiding seeds of death." Charming, you murmur. The flowers laugh. It's not pleasant. As you round a bend, a cluster of lilies begins humming. It's tuneless but not random. They're summoning something. You turn and nearly trip over a statue. Except it's not a statue. It's a man. Or was. Stone mid-scream. Arms raised like he was trying to shield his face. Vines curl gently around his ankles, like they're comforting him. Your flamingo steps behind your leg. Understandable. Who was he, you ask? A poet, the orchid says. He tried to explain the labyrinth. What happened? Explaining something doesn't always protect you from it. Historians still argue whether Wonderland was an allegory for mental breakdown or just an experimental exercise in narrative freedom. Either way, this part feels real. Real in that way your childhood fears felt. Vivid, specific, and impossible to explain to adults. You press forward, heart thudding. Eventually you reach a gate. It's made of woven stems, thorned and delicate. A bloom pulses at its center. Huge, midnight blue, gently unfurling. A voice, smooth, androgynous, emanates from the bloom. Speak. You blink. Speak what? The word you carry. I don't know if I do. The petals begin to close. You panic slightly. Wait. You think. All the strange pieces of your journey tangle in your mind. Tea that forgets time, queens with swords and tantrums, questions about who you are, caterpillars and keys and spoons. And then it clicks. Uncertainty, you say. The bloom pauses. Then it opens wider this time. The gate unlatches. The voice speaks again softer. To admit you don't know is to begin to know. You step through. And immediately fall 6 feet into a muddy puddle. Your flamingo flaps in after you with a soggy thump. You sit there a moment. Oh, dignity-free. Then you laugh. Because of course the gate leads to mud. You stand dripping and look up. You've reached it. The labyrinth. Tall hedges stretch impossibly high, their tops lost in mist. Paths spiral inward and away in equal measure, and overhead, the sky resets itself again, this time to dusk as if time is resyncing. From inside you hear humming. No, not humming. Clockwork. The labyrinth breathes with ticking. Every bush, every leaf, every turn. Time lives here. And it's listening. The labyrinth greets you with a sigh. Not wind. Not rustling. A sigh. Like the sound a very old library makes when it realizes someone just entered with coffee. The hedge walls are far taller than you expected. Dense, dark, and stitched with silvery vines that glint faintly. You step closer. They pulse almost imperceptibly, in time with the ticking you now realize is coming from everywhere. Each leaf hums with a slightly different tempo. Each branch clicks. Each shadow seems to pause for half a second longer than it should, like time itself is stuttering. You step in. Immediately the sound changes. Not louder, just closer. More personal. And beneath it, a whispering. Not words. More like the suggestion of words. A familiar cadence, but no language you recognize. Great, you mutter. Haunted shrubbery. Your flamingo, ever loyal and extremely damp, waddles behind you with a disgruntled squawk. Path splits. Freeways. No signs. No markers. Just 3 archways of hedge, all humming their own songs. Left ticks like a fast heartbeat. Center pulses slow, steady like breathing in your sleep. Right clicks in an uneven rhythm, almost jazzy. You point at the center. That feels safest. A vine promptly swats your finger. You frown. Democracy it is. The flamingo chooses right. Course he does. The hedge opens just slightly like it heard your resignation. You enter the right path. It narrows quickly, brushing your shoulders, whispering across your sleeves like an overly affectionate cat. Time shift. You feel it physically, like your stomach got left half a second behind. Your next step lands slower than you planned. The tickings grow sharper, more angular. Your thoughts stretch. Words arrive late. And then it snaps back, leaving you blinking. The path opens into a small courtyard. At its center is a pedestal with a giant hourglass. But the sand isn't falling. It's rising. You stare. The inscription reads, "Count nothing. Weigh everything." Very motivational. You mumble. Then the hourglass shudders. The sand bubbles. And with a pop, out hops something round, gray, and wearing a monocle. "Ahem," it says. "You're late." You stare. "I don't even know what I'm late for." "Exactly," says the thing. "That's why you're late. Do try to keep up." It bounces. Yes, bounces. Off the pedestal and begins hopping down a side path. You follow. 'Cause of course you do. As you walk it explains. "I am the hour hare. Not a hare. The hour hare. Time's attaché. Keeper of irregular moments. Steward of the almost." You nod slowly. "You work in HR for the 4th dimension." "Precisely," it says, delighted. You turn a corner and pass through an arch of gears suspended in air. No machinery. just floating gears clicking gently in sync. The hour hare stops and looks at you seriously. Here's the bit people get wrong, it says. Everyone thinks the labyrinth is about getting through it. You nod. And it's not. Oh, it is. But not physically. You don't exit by solving it. You exit by understanding what it's doing to you. Which is both reassuring and extremely not. You continue. The next turn is made of mirrors. Not on the walls. As the walls. Each reflection shows you, but not as you are. Some versions of you are older. Some are younger. One is wearing full armor and juggling lemons. Another has wings. One is crying. One is laughing like they've never been sad. Are these possibilities? You ask. Memories, says the hare. Or might be's. Depends which way you tilt your head. One reflection turns and looks directly at you, even though you didn't move. It mouths something. You can't hear it. But your heart stutters. I don't like this part, you whisper. No one does, says the hare. It's why most never make it past here. The mirrors don't lie, but they also don't apologize. You force yourself to keep walking. Each step feels heavier. Like you're dragging not your body, but yourselves. Finally, the mirrors fade into mist. And you're standing in front of a locked door. Wooden. Plain. Except for the dial in the center. Not numbers. Words. Regret. Hope. Pride. Shame. Curiosity. Forgiveness. The hare turns to you. Only one opens it. You reach forward. Hand hovering over regret. Then forgiveness. Then you stop. You press curiosity. The door clicks open. Well chosen, says the hare. That one's got teeth. Inside you see the center of the labyrinth. It's not a room. It's a clock. Enormous. Spinning in slow, concentric rings. Like a galaxy built from cogs and light. At its core floats a chair. Me. Waiting. The hare bows. It's yours. For now. You step forward awed. And in the stillness, the ticking pauses. Just for you. The chair hums. Not with noise, but with presence. It radiates the quiet gravity of something that's been waiting a long time to be useful again. Carved from dark wood that seems to shift color with every blink, it floats gently above the center of the labyrinth, buoyed by nothing but intention. You hesitate. The hour hare gestures with a little hop. Go on. Everyone does eventually. Everyone. You ask. He tilts his monocle. Well, everyone who matters. That's both ominous and flattering. You climb the steps that weren't there a moment ago. They shimmer into existence with each step, like you're walking on memory foam made of moonlight and bad decisions. And then you sit. The moment you do, everything stops. Literally. The ticking halts. The labyrinth pauses. The air itself seems to hold its breath. And then the chair begins to spin. Slowly. Gently. You expect dizziness. Instead you feel clarity. The gears around you shift and reveal scenes. Not on screens, just in the air. Like stained glass caught mid-story. You see yourself at 7 crying because your drawing got laughed at. Yourself at 20 laughing because someone else's didn't. Your grandmother's hand placing a warm cup of tea into yours. The steam curling like a promise. Text you never sent. A goodbye you mumbled too quickly. The time you hesitated and the way the world bent slightly because of it. A voice, not the hare's, whispers beside your ear. Do you know why you're here? You shake your head. You are the sum of all your unasked questions. That lands. A moment passes. The images shift again. Now they're absurd. Wonderland style absurd. You wearing a crown made of jelly beans. You leading a rebellion of flamingos. You arguing with a loaf of bread about metaphysics. You glance at the hare, who has produced a tiny clipboard and is furiously scribbling notes. Is this supposed to mean something? Everything means something, he says. Some of it just hasn't decided what yet. The chair rotates again. Lower now. The image is dim. And then trial horns. You know the sound now. That brassy, slightly off-key bleep that precedes drama. The hare sighs. Right on time. Time for what? You've been summoned. The chair descends. You don't step off. It sets you down like a polite elevator made of antique wisdom. The hare offers you a scroll. What's this? Your defense. Of what? Yourself. And, incidentally, the entire narrative logic of Wonderland. Pardon. But he's already bouncing off. Follow the moss path. If it tries to eat your shoes, you're going the right way. You and your flamingo, who's been unusually quiet, begin the walk. The moss is thick, slightly sentient, and very judgmental. It slurps faintly with every step. You arrive in a clearing shaped like an amphitheater. Stone benches, crooked and uneven, spiral around a central platform. At the highest bench sits the Queen of Hearts. But this time she's not shouting. She's watching. On the opposite side of the platform, the Hatter. Your original tea host. His smile is tight and his cup is trembling just a bit. Beside him, the caterpillar, blowing contemplative smoke rings. The smoke spells out, this should be amusing. The judge is a pudding. Like an actual pudding. Jiggles once. Gravely. Prosecution, state your case. It burbles. The Queen stands. This outsider has tampered with the pacing of Wonderland. Their questions have caused clocks to hiccup, their reflections to contradict themselves, and worst of all, they made me lose at croquet. A squirrel faints. Defense. The pudding squelches. You hold up your scroll, then drop it, then panic and improvise. I didn't mean to do anything. I just followed the flamingo. Your flamingo nods solemnly. I asked questions because I didn't know. I listened. I tried to understand. And if I shook things up, well, maybe they needed shaking. Silence. The Hatter sips his tea. The caterpillar nods, vaguely approving. The Queen narrows her eyes. Sounds like revolution. Sounds like growth, you say. And maybe Wonderland needs a little of both. The pudding ripples. Then belches. Verdict, tolerable. Sentence, tea. The crowd erupts in applause. You're handed a cup. Deem curls up. The Queen leans forward. Next time you will lose gracefully. You nod. I make no promises. And somewhere above, in the gears of the labyrinth, something ticks forward for the first time in ages. You sip the tea. It's not tea. Not really. Tastes like tea. Earl Grey maybe. But also like the memory of being hugged unexpectedly. And the smell of rain on warm pavement. And the sound of someone saying your name with just the right amount of surprise and joy. You blink. The courtroom is gone. No applause, no queen, no pudding judge. Just a stillness. You're standing beside a lake. Still one. Flat as glass. Not a ripple. Not a sound. You step forward, and the surface doesn't distort. Instead, it responds. The lake doesn't reflect you exactly. It reflects possibilities. Versions of you that almost happened. Versions you never knew you'd considered. To your left, a version of you in explorer's garb, map in hand, eyes full of wild curiosity. To your right, a version curled on a couch, cat in lap, nose in a novel, content. Another reflection shows you older. Silver hair. Laugh lines. A peaceful kind of tired. Another. Younger. Angry. Dark. guarded. You don't move. They do. They look at you. Some with recognition, others with pity, one with resentment. You try to speak, but the lake silences you. Not rudely, gently, like a librarian raising one finger. Your flamingo stands beside you, gazing into the water. His reflection, oddly, is just a rubber duck. He looks mildly insulted. You suppress a laugh. The lake doesn't smile, but something in its ripples seems pleased. A voice from behind you, slow and careful. Careful now. Stare too long and you might choose. You turn. It's the white knight. You weren't expecting him to be so dusty. His armor is dented. His sword is missing. His helmet hangs from one hand like an afterthought. His steed, a pale horse with the eyes of someone who's seen too many plot twists, nudges at the grass, uninterested. Choose what? You ask. Your path back, the knight says. Or forward. Or sideways. He gestures to the lake. She shows all your almosts. All the selves you never grew into. You watch one version of you. Confident, stylish, commanding. Stride across the surface like it's a stage. That one looks impressive, you mutter. That one's exhausting, the knight replies. You point to another. Gentle, patient, quiet. Nice enough, he says. But that one never said what they needed. The reflections ripple again. One sinks. Don't worry, he says. It'll come back. They all do. Eventually. Historians still debate, he adds, whether this lake existed in the original Wonderland manuscript or was just a metaphor added later by bored scholars. Personally, I think it's real. Most real things are too strange for fiction. You walk beside him. The lake fades behind you. The path turns from grass to pale stone, then to wooden planks stretched across a misty marsh. Your flamingo rides on the horse now. He looks entirely too smug. I liked the courtroom better, you admit. The knight chuckles. That's because you weren't losing. Fair. He stops walking. Listen, he says. You've done well. You've played the game without playing. That's a rare trick. Thanks. But you need to know. Wonderland isn't letting you go. Not yet. One last trial. One last encounter. You frown. Haven't I had enough? Oh yes. But this one isn't for you. He turns, pointing toward a small hill. There at the top stands someone. You squint. Not a reflection. Not a could be. Not a metaphor. You. Same clothes. Same hoodie. Same flamingo, now duplicated. Perched smugly beside the other you. Your other self waves. You wave back. The knight tips his helmet to you. I'll wait here. This is something only you can untangle. You walk slowly up the hill. The other you doesn't move. Just watches. When you reach the top, you realize. Their eyes are different. Wiser maybe. Or more tired. Hard to say. They speak first. Oh. Did you find what you weren't looking for? You grin. Isn't that the point? They nod. Good. Because next comes the hard part. You sit beside them. No need to ask what that is. You already know. Leaving. The wind shifts on the hilltop. Soft and uncertain, like it's trying to decide whether to stay or drift off toward stranger places. You and your other self sit in silence. Not an awkward one. A knowing one. Like both of you are waiting for the same thought to arrive. You watch the sky. It's turned violet, streaked with gold. The clouds move backward like someone pressed rewind on the weather. Your flamingo and their flamingo begin grooming each other. It's weirdly touching. You know, your other self says. I didn't think you'd come this far. You doubted me. No, they reply. I remembered how many times you almost stopped. You nod. That tracks. Were you always here? You ask. Depends. Were you always you? You hate how Wonderland makes questions feel like traps and riddles wear disguises. Still you press on. So what is this? A final test. Not a test, your other self says. A handoff. You blink. I don't understand. They look at you with something close to kindness. You've been gathering pieces. Questions. Memories. Unfinished poems. The tea party, the trial, the mirror maze. Wonderland isn't just a story. It's a place made of possibility. The selves. You've met them. Seen them. Worn some, rejected others. You exhale slowly. You're saying I'm supposed to pick one. No. I'm saying now you carry them all. You let that sit. It's not heavy, but it is dense. Like the weight of a full heart, not a burdened one. I'm scared of going back, you admit. Your other self nods. Because the world out there doesn't shimmer. Doesn't talk in riddles. Doesn't hand you clues in teacups. Exactly. They look down the hill. Then don't go back as the same. You frown. But if I change too much, will people recognize me? They don't recognize you now, they say gently. They just think they do. That hits harder than expected. The two flamingos are now asleep, heads tucked under wings, forming a sort of heart-shaped lump of feathery disinterest. The wind picks up again. Colder this time. Insistent. Time, your other self says. It's catching up. You stand. They do too. You look at each other. It's not a mirror. It's a reunion. Will I forget all this? You ask. Some of it, they say. The sharp edges fade. The nonsense will blur. But the questions, they stay. Like seeds. You nod. You shake their hand. Feels like touching déjà vu. And then they step backward. Into a fog that wasn't there before. And they vanish like a page turning itself. You look down the hill. There's a road now. Wooden planks. Twisting between trees. Lit by tiny lanterns that hover midair. Flickering with soft, uncertain light. The night is there waiting. He waves. His horse yawns. Your flamingo hops up beside you. You smile. Ready. You whisper. He makes a noise that sounds halfway between why not and I was born ready, which, honestly, feels about right. You walk. Down the path. Into the mist. Toward something that might be an ending. Or maybe just a next. Path is kind now. After everything, the hungry moss, the accusatory mirrors, the existential tea parties. You almost don't trust it. But this one holds steady beneath your feet, each wooden plank gently lit by floating lanterns that hum like sleepy bees. It's quiet. You realize. This is the first time in Wonderland that quiet hasn't meant danger. Your flamingo trots beside you, head tilted, beak slightly open in what might be admiration or indigestion. You're not sure anymore, and it doesn't seem to matter. Ahead the trees thin. You step into a wide clearing. And there it is again. Tea party. But not the same one. This time the table is upside down, literally hanging from the air. Cups dangle like wind chimes, saucers drift like lily pads, and chairs float lazily around the perimeter like very confused jellyfish. The March hare is meditating. Midair. He opens one eye as you approach. You've circled back, he says. But forward. Is that normal? You ask. Shrugs. Here. Define normal without bursting into glitter, and I'll bake you a cake. You notice the Mad Hatter at the far end of the table, scribbling on a scroll labeled List of Enlightenments, Draft 7. His hat now features a tiny flag that reads "Doubt everything" in frilly gold script. Oh good, he says, seeing you. We were just rewriting the tea ceremony. You mean the one where no one drinks anything and the table runs away? Exactly. But this version includes self-reflection and an actual menu. We're getting civilized. The dormouse emerges from a teapot and sighs. Against my better judgment. You smile despite yourself. Why am I here again, you ask. The Hatter stands arms wide. To choose your last cup. On cue, 6 teapots float toward you, each steaming gently. This one, he says, pointing to a silver one, is certainty. Very dull. Goes cold fast. He nods toward a violet pot with a floral handle. Curiosity, never the same twice, may cause mild dizziness. A delicate jade green pot drifts closer. Comfort, sweet, harmless, disappears the moment you need it most. The others. Truth, bitter, best with lemon. Illusion, surprisingly nutritious. And this one. He lifts a tiny copper teapot reverently. Chaos. Best served with cake and a crash helmet. You raise an eyebrow. What if I don't choose? The March Hare chuckles. Then Wonderland chooses for you. You glance at your flamingo. He gestures toward chaos. Predictably, you pick curiosity. The teacup floats into your hand. It glows softly like it's listening to your intentions. You sip. Tastes like a question mark dipped in honey. Like, mysterious, inviting. The Hatter claps. Excellent choice. You'll forget all the right things. The Dormouse mutters. Or remember all the wrong ones. Same result. Clock chimes somewhere overhead. 12 tones, each slightly out of tune. The table folds itself into a paper crane and flutters away. Chairs blink out of existence. The hare floats upward, giving you a thumbs up. Only the Hatter remains. He walks you to the edge of the clearing. There a door stands alone, its knob shaped like a comma. No key this time, you ask. He smiles. You are the key now. The door opens. Light spills through. Not blinding, not harsh. Just warm. Before you step through, the Hatter leans in. Next time you find a question stuck in your teeth, he whispers, spit it out. See where it lands. You nod. You step into the light. You're not gone. You're transformed. Back in your world, but carrying a different weight. Not heavier, just more awake. Somewhere far behind you, a tea kettle whistles. And you smile. 'Cause now you understand why it never boiled before you looked away. You're falling again. But this time it's gentle, like the world has wrapped you in a sigh and is slowly letting you go. You drift, not through space, through thought. Images float past, some familiar, some not. A hedgehog in sunglasses, a crumpet that tap dances. A version of you arguing passionately with a cloud about personal boundaries. Stillness. You're standing in a museum. Except it's not quite a museum. No walls. No ceiling. Just a vast hall of freestanding exhibits lit by stars that hang low enough to touch. The floor is made of old library cards, stitched together and whispering softly under your feet. A sign appears beside you. Welcome to the archive of lost dreams and misremembered stories. Your flamingo perches atop a glass case. He looks impressed. You wander. To your left, a snow globe filled with your handwriting. Inside, scenes from a story you meant to finish. Characters half-born, plots frozen mid-sentence. To your right, a row of doors labeled could have been almost and definitely not. One is ajar. You resist the urge to peek. Farther down, a carousel spins slowly, playing a music box tune you haven't heard since childhood. Instead of horses, the ride features moments, tiny versions of you at different ages, looping in gentle orbit. There's one. You, age 9, building a blanket fort. Another. You 24, sitting in a cafe with someone you thought you'd never lose. They wave at you. You wave back. People think dreams disappear, says a voice behind you. It's the caterpillar, reclining in a case labeled obsolete philosophies. They don't. They just file themselves under later. You nod. So this place holds them all. He exhales a tiny puff of smoke that becomes a question mark. All the things you didn't follow. All the versions of you that never got main character status. They're safe here. They get bored, of course. But they're safe. You walk deeper into the archive. There's a painting on an easel. Shows you. Not as you are. As you feel you could be. Stronger. Softer. Still flawed but braver about it. The frame is unfinished. A sign beside it reads, "Work in progress." You hear humming. Familiar. The tune from the tea party. But slower now. Wistful. You follow it. At the center of the archive stands a book. Enormous. Bound in bark and gold thread. Its pages turn themselves. You step closer. One page is blank. Another holds your name. You don't remember writing it, but your handwriting is unmistakable. A pen floats beside the book. You look to your flamingo. Shrugs. Helpfully unhelpful. You pick up the pen. And you write. Today I asked better questions. The ink glows. The book sighs. You step back. Behind you the caterpillar grins. Not bad. Not final. But not bad. You return to the entrance. A small door has appeared, round, wooden, with a handle shaped like an ampersand. You open it. Not to escape. To continue. One last glance back at the archive. The carousel slows. The lights dim. The characters on the ride wave again. Some with joy, some with something like sadness. You step through the door. The floor creaks. The stars wink. And the archive waits for your next rewrite. Smells like ink and clean sheets. Not what you expected. You've walked through 1,000 impossible places by now. Some foggy, some blooming, some echoing with your own voice turned inside out. But this space? This space is gentle. Looks like a study. Not grand. Not mysterious. Just cozy. Fireplace unlit but waiting. Shelves stacked with books that lean against each other like tired friends. A desk with a lamp that flickers slightly, casting soft amber light across parchment and pens and teacups stained by use, not neglect. You close the door behind you. Your flamingo finds a cushion and immediately collapses into a nap, wings twitching like he's dreaming of synchronized noodle dances. You don't ask. On the desk lies a letter. Unsealed. Addressed. To the you who wandered. You hesitate. Then read. Do you? If you're reading this, then you've already unraveled more than most. You've asked questions, faced riddles, sipped chaos, dodged monarchs, and been measured by gardens and mirrors alike. You've made choices, some good, some simply brave. And now you wonder, as everyone does, was any of it real? The answer, of course, is yes. Just not in the way you're used to. Wonderland was never a place. It was a process. It's what happens when you finally sit with the parts of yourself that you kept telling to shush. The loud questions. The soft fears. The tangled roots of maybe and someday and not quite yet. You gave them time. That's all they ever wanted. So now what next? Only you know. And that, dear wanderer, is the best kind of magic. Only. The you who waited. You finish reading. Fold the letter. Place it back on the desk. The lamp brightens slightly, as if nodding. You look up. The study has changed. Not in layout. In feeling. The books now bear titles that resonate. How to Begin, The Art of Almost, Why Mistakes Matter. Some of them are in your handwriting. You don't remember writing them, but you believe that you did. or will. A window opens where there wasn't one before. You step toward it. Outside is a night field. Stars dangle like earrings from the moon. Crickets chirp in proper stanzas. And in the distance, the spiral staircase. You recognize it. From the letter. From the caterpillar's eyes. From every moment you felt the story pushing upward. This is your way back. Or your way onward. You step outside. The field hushes to let you pass. The staircase rises with each step, forming as you go, woven from hushes, echoes, and the spaces between heartbeat and breath. Each step is lighter than the last. Below, the study glows. Your flamingo snores softly. The letter remains on the desk. And just before it fades from view, you see a new page flutter onto the parchment stack. Blank. Waiting. Your climb continues. And somewhere high above, the Queen of Hearts sneezes, because even she can sense when something important is happening. Climb is quiet. No ticking. No whispers. Not even the rustle of the staircase as it forms itself beneath your feet. Only your breath. Even. Measured. And something else, a hum. Low, like the sound the universe might make if it were humming a lullaby just for you. The staircase twists. Not sharply. Elegantly. Like it's unsure whether it wants to be a path or a poem. Above you, the sky stretches wide and dark, freckled with stars that blink in odd patterns, like punctuation from a language you almost remember. Step by step, the air grows thinner, cooler. Not cold. It is soft, like silk left in the moonlight. And then, without warning, you stop. There's no platform, no sign. Just a moment of knowing that you've reached the last step. You don't need to move forward. You just need to listen. Because Wonderland is speaking. Not in words. In reminders. You hear the crunch of sugar cubes under a dormouse's foot. The creak of a chair that once tried to bite you. The deep-throated laugh of the Mad Hatter rewriting etiquette. The dreamy sigh of a queen who ruled everything and nothing all at once. But louder than all of that, your own heartbeat. Steady. Present. Change. A breeze circles you now. Not wind. Not air. Memory. It carries the scent of tea and mischief, roses and candle wax, ink and possibility. You look down. There's nothing beneath the staircase now. Wonderland has faded. Not erased, just resting. Like it's watching from behind a curtain, waiting for the next traveler bold enough to ask the wrong question. And ahead, doorway, no frame, no hinges, just light, pure and pulsing like the start of a story that hasn't been told yet. You step through. The light wraps around you. And then, darkness, but not the kind you fear, the kind that welcomes. Like a deep sleep after a long day of becoming. You're weightless, breathless. You hear the faint sound of a teacup being placed gently on a saucer. And then, a whisper. Just for you. You made it. You smile, eyes closed. The voice continues. Sleep now. The world will wait. You let go. Of the staircase. Of the Queen's verdict. Of the fear in the mirrors and the riddles left unanswered. You let go of even your name. And just like that, you float. Past the edge of questions. Into the gentle silence of dreams. Where even Wonderland dares not follow. Now.